Thank you, everyone. Okay. So when they called me a couple months ago and told me about this event to come speak at Fuckup Nights, since I've been in the workforce for over 25 years, the first question I had was, which one? There have been so many of them. And I actually tried to narrow it down and I couldn't. So what I thought is that I would go through a couple of them tonight in the time that I have, and hopefully by discussing them collectively we can learn some sort of message, I hope, and if not, at least for me, it's cheaper than therapy. So I started off, I made Aliyah 50 years ago and spent 5 years working for the Israeli government in the trade advisory area. I was a lawyer for 11 years in the States. It was a really challenging job. It forced me to learn a whole different set of skills. It really took me outside my comfort zone. I was working with people that by and large I liked. The salary and the benefits collectively weren't too bad. What's the fuck up? I lost all sense of work-life balance. I was traveling all the time. I wasn't always reachable. I have a family. And at some point in this process, I paused and I said, I'm on a job path at the moment that's satisfying, but will it get me to the person that I want to become? And the answer was no. And so at that point, I disengaged and I wound up going to Better Place, which some of you may know. And I spent, at the time, I was there for 2 years, 2010, 2011, into 2012. We were probably one of the biggest startups at the time. Shai Agassi, the CEO and the founder, was going to convince everybody to switch to electric cars and make the world a better place. Didn't quite work out that way. I was there for 2 years. I ran global business development. I'm not here to talk about Shai's screw-ups, in part because we don't have time. Suffice to say, there's a reason you haven't heard too much about him lately. He took $800 million of outside investment and sold 800 cars. It's $1 million a car. The car was a Renault Fluence. If you've ever seen a Renault Fluence, it ain't $1 million car. I want to talk about my own screw-up at that period, which was that I lost a sense of self-confidence. I had developed what I would call informed intuition. My desk was meters away from Shai's. I knew what was going on. I saw that we were taking in more and more money. The company was getting bloated with people that weren't communicating with one another. It was impossible for Shai to walk into a room without thinking he was the smartest person in that room, and letting people know that, which wound up isolating a lot of our potential partners. And for all the talk about the digitization of transport, it required physically moving people from point A to point B and getting them to buy into your business model. My mistake was that I lost my sense of common sense, which was that I was surrounded by very capable people, many of whom knew technology better than I did. I had MBAs, I have a law degree, and I kept seeing us making all of these mistakes, but I kept hearing how we were going to be the next Apple. And part of me really wanted to be. And it wasn't until I was actually flying back from London, having pitched a Fortune 50 company to put in investment, that I realized I had crossed the boundary between what I thought could happen in a best case scenario and what I was certain wasn't going to happen. And we take our reputations with us from job to job. If you can avoid it, my recommendation is always never to define your self-worth by your employer, because it's an investment that does not pay dividends. And I sort of lost, who I was at that point and made the decision to leave. Now, when I left, at the time, Shai was indicating that the company would probably go public in about 6 months to 8 months inside. I actually thought it would go bankrupt in about a year. Unfortunately, it did take about 18 months. But the company didn't succeed, and I felt it was in my best interest to move on from there. Where did I go? Well, as often happens when we sort of go out to sea in the world of high tech, I went to Say For Sure, which was that there was a U.S. law firm that was looking to open an office here in Israel. They wanted to be the first to do so. They liked the fact that I had a long business background. They provided me with a real nice office at the top of the Israeli Towers, a nice salary. For the first 2 years, I was there for 3 years. It was actually an interesting job. We were a startup. We were a law firm startup. But like any startup, we were trying to figure out how we disrupt the market, how we have, what unique advantage do we bring. What happened after 2 years was that conversations drifted from business to the business of law. So it became conversations more about bringing up the billable hours, recording your time in 6-minute allotments, which is what attorneys do. And I realized for me that that wasn't a step forward, that was a step sideways. I had gone too far into my comfort zone. And I was literally driving to work that third year and just didn't, it wasn't that I didn't have anything to look forward to that day or that month, but I just couldn't see myself doing the same thing over and over again for the next 5, 10, 15 years. I'm going to skip, and I left. I'm going to skip this one because of time and talk about what I'm doing now briefly, which is that I reached the age of 50 a couple of years ago and started to think about, okay, what lessons have I learned? Where can I work that would allow me to achieve work-life balance, something that would take me outside my comfort zone, something that would give me a sense of self-worth. And I came to Africa because it's a country, it's a continent that interests me. I think when the story of this century is written, it'll be an African story. It's the only part in the world where by 2050 the population doubles, by 2100 it doubles again. Excuse me. And as a result of that, it presents enormous opportunities and it presents enormous challenges. And I wanted to be a part of that. And so I had a client that had invested in a US company that built affordable housing in Africa. He wanted to increase the investment and wasn't happy with the management and invited me to come on and join it. In an evening that talks about fuck-ups, I want to be clear, it's not a failure. We're not a success yet, but we try day by day, and we make mistakes every day. We try not to make the same ones twice. It's incredibly difficult, as you can imagine, to do business in Africa. It's always 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. I inherited a problem, which is that property that we had owned in the Republic of Angola was seized by Angolan government officials. Men with AK-47s came and chased off our employees. And you can actually, if you want, you can Google it. It's a very strange situation because I'm in a public fight, both in Angola and US courts. Thanks. And it is one for 15 years. I'm just going to keep going. just a couple more minutes. But it's a strange situation. Where literally, there are articles that come out in the Angolan press which have a photo of the president of Angola and a photo of me. I think it might be that one. And every time I look at it, I think it's like a promotion for the world's worst heavyweight title bout. But that's on the downside. On the plus side, we built 150 homes in Namibia, all first-time home buyers, low and middle-income families, which gives me an enormous sense of self-worth. And we hope to build another 250 this year, but it's a constant challenge, day to day. It's the last day of the month. I always worry the last day of the month because we have to do payroll. We managed to do it so far, but as I stand here, I don't have a plan for doing it in July. But I'm hoping we'll develop one over the next month. I want to sort of get to something that would tie all of this together, which is I wanted to leave you with one really strong positive message. I didn't think you would be satisfied with 2 negative ones. And what I came up with was an African proverb. What is it for me that ties together all of these failures that I've experienced? And the proverb is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I have the benefit of having a family that supports me through all of these endeavors, that allows me to take risks, to move from job to job, that encourages me, that tells me when I'm about to make a mistake, and if I've made the mistake, to go and fix it, apologize, and move on. And so, I know in these sorts of forums that everyone wants to race. They want to be to have the biggest startup in your 30s, and you want to be multimillionaires in your 40s. And far be it from me to dampen anyone's dream. But from my perspective in this race, I think if we're really, really fortunate, it's going to be a long marathon and not a quick sprint. So surround yourself by people that look after you, that care for you, that can advise you, and pace yourself. Thank you.
We've got time for a couple of questions. There's someone up the back. Oh, brilliant. Please.
So you said you're surrounding yourself with people who take care of you, but how do you take care of yourself?
All right, the question was, you surround yourself with people who take care of you, but how do you take care of yourself?
Now, this really is going to be like therapy. Look, it's like, and by the, I said family, friends, it's colleagues, it's anyone that looks to support you. And if you find the right people, they will. It's a mutual experience. That's as in any relationship in life.
Great, and up the back over here.
So how did you find that work-life balance?
All right, question about how did you find the work-life balance?
You know, it's a constant struggle. It's not a balance on a day-to-day basis. For the first 3 months of this year, my middle one, my daughter, reminded me I traveled 6 times and was barely home. For the second 3 months, I was home most of the time. It's over the long term. Are you in a place where you're satisfied with your job, where it gives you self-worth, where you can meet your responsibilities to yourselves and to others, and at the same point, you're home. I don't know. I hope I met it. I mean, my wife is somewhere here. We've been together 30 years,
Specifically, because I feel like a lot of people struggle with that balancing pleasure, like living your life and working.
The question was, is there something specific? Can you give us one takeaway, something everyone can walk out the door
I
with?
think when you've really lost it, you can. If you listen to yourself, you'll know you lost it. Like I found in those periods where my work-life balance has been way off, that somewhere I've sort of paused and said, this is just not sustainable. And so you have to correct for it.
Okay, taking pause. One final one, just up the back there near the bar.
Just based on your experience of Better Place, what do you think of Tesla? Is that going to be the most biggest fuck up of all?
So it's based on your experience of Better Place, what do you think of Tesla?
Look, at the time, there was actually, Tesla used to have an office across the street from Better Place when they were in California, and there was a big rivalry between Elon Musk and Shai. And when Better Place collapsed, people said Elon Musk won that argument. Not so sure. You only have to look at where the company is at the moment. Look, the truth of the matter is, without getting on a soapbox, the field is moving in the right direction, right? It's moving towards electrification of cars. Nobody wants to keep polluting the earth. The problem is that when you build yourself up to be the savior and you fail, it has a price. It does have a price. Overall, I think our failure didn't help the market. And it might even be hindered a little bit. But what's really nice now is that you actually look at all the major automotive manufacturers, all are coming out with electric cars. So we'll get there.
Great, let's give it up to Scott. Thank you.